What is up, everybody? What is up? King Num here, bringing you guys a lot of Prodigy practices. Now, this will not be the follow-up of the video, but I did want to have this in the background just in case anyone got bored, didn't really care about the Survivor tier list, etc. But honestly, if you did read the title, if you did look at the description, anything like that, you know what you came here for, you know? You came here for the Season 14 Survivor tier list from the first Survivor in NAU. Just my opinion, you guys. Keep that in mind when you're reading this or when you're listening to it, anything like that. Now, jumping straight into it, I'm just going to be explaining a couple things. If you guys do not agree with my opinion, I could literally care less. Keep it a buck. I really could not care. If you do agree with my opinion, that's cool. But if you don't, you know, stay away from the comments trying to argue with people. You know, if you're actually trying to have an actual conversation, I can respect that. But the people that just came here to hate because someone got placed here or just go somewhere, okay? I'm not really here for all that. Hopefully you aren't either. Now, another thing I want to explain before I even get started is that there is 5 people per category, okay? I chose 5 characters to be in one category, not necessarily in order, and just accept what I did, okay? It is what it is. Now, jumping straight into this, we can start off with S tier. Everybody knows about S tier. Everyone should know the 5 main characters that should be in S tier. But if you don't, one of them I got is Mechanic. Obviously, we all should know who Mechanic is. I look at her as S tier because she can literally decode while in a chair. She promotes Cypher Rush. Even though she is one of the worst kiters in the game, she's one of the best promoting Cypher Rushing people in the game as well. We all should know that. Pretty self-explanatory. Moving on into Mercenary. If you do not know, Mercenary has 4 elbow pads. Only person who can take a detention hit. One of the best rescuers in the game. It's pretty self-explanatory, also common sense. I'm already going to be moving on. I know I'm going through it quick, especially with the S tiers, because I want to give enough time for A+ and below. Now, we got Priestess. If you do not know, I'm Numer. Best Priestess in AU. If you don't believe me, look at my channel, okay? Stats don't lie, etc. If you haven't seen me in tournaments, I'm a part of Prodigy, blah, blah, blah. Priestess is literally broken. Do I think she deserves a nerf? No. As a Priestess main, I'm gonna say that. If I get hate, it is what it is. But she is broken, don't get me wrong. But her character design is broken, okay? Just like Mechanics, just like Dream Witch, just like BQ, okay? So don't get me wrong. If the devs choose to nerf her, like Persuadable already said is not going to happen, then they do. I'm gonna stick with it and rock with it. But if you do not know, she has portals which can support her teammates. Almost on every single map can guarantee a 70+ second kite. She heals fast as well, and she's just really amazing. Moving straight into it, we have Seer, who I honestly think is probably one of the weakest S tier characters in this current meta today. Now, don't get me wrong, he's still an S tier character. I'm a top 10 Seer myself. If you don't know who Seer is, blah blah blah, don't know how to play him, I'll have a link in the description. I'm going to use Schmitty as an example, an amazing Seer player. Just like for Mechanic, my leg, okay? They're both a part of Before You. It's pretty self-explanatory. Seer is blind, even though that has nothing to do with it. But yeah, he could basically take an extra standard hit. Now with the chip damage meta, that could be bombed away, statue hit away, etc. However, this can help because he can support from across the map and still promote Cypher Rush. No decoding debuff on him, so that's perfect. And yeah, so moving on to Forward. Honestly, he's going to be the last character in the S tier. I feel like most of you guys assume this already, the top 5, but if you don't know who Cats is, Cats007, also a part of Prodigy, put his link in the description. One of the best forwards on the server, if not the best. And yeah, he can harass when needed. And what I mean by harassing is when someone's dead on chair, he can save the game and change the tide of a game from a draw situation to a win situation. Forward does have a decoding debuff that is 30%, which is unfortunate. However, he does make it up with the harassing aspect and his kiting aspect, which most hunters won't even chase him. Now, it looks like we covered about the top 5 of S tiers, you know. And if you guys are looking for the end result of the tier list, it will be at the end of the video, so make sure to go look at that. But now we can hop in straight to the A+ or who I like to call the A+ characters of Identity V in Season 14. Now, starting off with this list, we got Explorer. Now, understand guys, when I'm doing this, I'm talking about the character itself and the potential, not the name that comes with it and the players that come with it, because this is NAEU, and a lot of things that you will see, you'll be like, huh? Well, I don't see that here because it's different. I'm accounting everybody in a general aspect and more so towards the rank side of things and a little bit of tournament, you'll see. But like I said, more of the general aspect. But like I said, we're talking about Explorer, and I think he is one of the second best Cypher rushing, aka promoting Cypher rush people as a decoder main. Why? Because he counters peepers when he is hidden. If you can hide well, he can become very deadly, turning a loss situation into a draw situation or a draw into a win. No, his kiting doesn't have a lot of potential, but due to having a team comp with a priestess, seer, etc., maybe even a forward, we can change that. Now the character itself, if you can hide pretty well and promote Cypher Rush, it's looking like a draw situation almost every rank match. And if you like, some Explorer mains can vouch me on this. I know OT is first Explorer in NAU currently. He's also a part of Prodigy. I'll put his description link in below. But yeah, Explorer is really, really deadly if used correctly. And I just feel like a lot of people don't see the potential. Maybe they do now, but they definitely didn't see it back then. And I can appreciate an Explorer main doing his job. Now jumping into another A+ character that I see is Gravekeeper. Now we all should know about Gravekeeper. I think about 8 months ago when he did come out, maybe even 9. A lot of people looked at him as meta. And don't get me wrong, these A+ people can be looked at as meta. And I think he's really good. I just think feeding presence with the current meta is not the objective, in my opinion. I still think Gravekeeper is an amazing looping character and can rescue very, very well. One person I can use as an example is Roland. Roland is an amazing Gravekeeper, as I can use for Miasma, an amazing Gravekeeper. If you do not know who these people are, you can easily look at the leaderboards of NAEU for the Survivor side of things, and boom, you can see their name, etc. But Gravekeeper has 2 shovels, obviously. They last about, what, 35 seconds apiece, something like that. And all the game is really about is wasting the hunter's time. Gravekeeper does an excellent job by doing that. He can kite very well if used properly, as the potential is very, very high with him. He can rescue very, very well. His Cypher Rush is not too bad with, I think, a what, 15% decoding debuff? Maybe, no, 15 guaranteed. I think it's 15, pretty sure. And that just makes him a really, really good character. Moving straight into another character that I see as A+. And I know, let me just start this off. We're going to be saying Cowboy. Now, when you hear me say Cowboy, I don't want none of the fandom or who Cowboy used to be getting hurt about what I'm about to say. And if you do get hurt, it is what it is. But Cowboy is just not the same. And when I say this, I think Kaz007 is a prime example of how Cowboy used to be played, with that harassing aspect. But if you guys do not know, he got a major adjustment which turned him into a kiting character. Now do not get me wrong, I think Cowboy back then is 10 times better than he is now, but I'm going to explain why I look at him as A+. First of all, he doesn't have the harassing as much as we all know, but like I did tell you, they turned him into a kiting character, who I look at as one of the best transitional kiters in the game, if used to his potential or correctly, you guys. Do not get me wrong, I think back then Cowboy was amazing, and now he got a little bit dumbed down. However, if you do use him in the way that I'm going to explain, it makes a little bit more sense. Now, if you look at people like in this current meta, like Bonbon, Sculptor, etc., what do they mainly focus on? Stuffing rescues, not their chase. And they need tight kiting characters to down very, very easily. Now, if we look at Cowboy, like I said, one of the best transitional kiters due to the boost he gets by using his lasso, etc. Obviously, there is downsides of him, just like every character, mainly below this. But I just look at Cowboy as a really, really good character, you guys. Because if you have that transitional aspect of things, the statues aren't going to be hitting like they want, not the chain bombs as well. Plus, if you get that support from your team, etc., I just look at him as a 60+ guaranteed second kite character. And even then, when he does not get chased, he can promote Cypher Rush still with not that bad of a debuff. And just from there, I just really think back then, yes, better, don't get hurt. Now, not as good, but I feel like they completely flipped it. And if needed, he can support helping people kite by lassoing them, etc. And he can still harass. I don't think the harassing's there as much, so that's why I'm not going based off of that. But I still look at him as an A+ if used correctly, you guys. Ooh, need to drink some water. Now, moving on to the 4 out of 5th character in the A+ tier category, I'm going to be talking about Prospector. Now, do not get me wrong. I know a lot of people do not like Prospector in NAU due to the reasons of stunning hunters out of recovery, which was one of his downsides. But honestly, if you do use the character to his fullest potential itself, I do see him as an A+. Why? Because I actually do it with the first Prospector in NAEU for this entire season. He's CQI, part of Prodigy, if you do not know who he is. And I realized, if you look at all of his traits, none of them are negative. They don't affect his team, nothing like that, or himself. Yes, I feel like the locker boost is a little bit long, but he still gets a boost, keep that in mind. And he also has a recharging ability when it comes to his trait, which is magnets, etc. I don't really feel like explaining who Prospector is, but I can explain why I think he's A+. For one, he can kite. If you can get a good Prospector used to his potential, I see a 60 in him against meta. I feel like he relies more on the decoding aspect, which is he can promote Cypher Rush like crazy, okay? And if needed, he can harass endgame when someone's dead on chair. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, it's pretty self-explanatory at that. Once I explain all that, I do see Prospector as an A+. Now, moving on to the last one, which is going to be controversial. And I just feel like a lot of people are going to either hate or completely love it, which is Embalmer. Now, if you guys do not know, in China and Asia servers, they do look at his Embalmer as meta. Why? Because he counters the current meta, especially with a whole bonbon. Now, I do say this with a little sense of guilt because I really do enjoy playing Embalmer, and if you guys do not believe he is an A+ character, I will show you next season by maining him, okay? I'm a man that keeps my word, and I promise that. Now, if we look at Embalmer, if used correctly with the strategy, you see that you place your coffin down in a corner of a map or a certain area you think you can kite, and you kite away from it, obviously. Not necessarily supporting as much as other characters, but I do see him as he can see your face, readjust where he puts his coffin, and give it to you if needed, etc. to help support. Obviously, I see that's less likely, but when it comes to his kiting aspect, he's basically left with nothing. But if you take those left and right build, take that speed boost, I feel like as long as you kite away, roughly have a good game sense vibe type of thing, he can be used really, really well for draw plus situations. And what I mean by that is you get rescued your first chair, and then the second chair, at that point, you're literally across the map and the hunter can't do nothing about it. Yes, it does depend on the map when it comes to him, just like it depends on Priestess, but it's a little bit different, okay? I told you guys this would be like a little iffy towards some people believing in it or not believing in it. But in my opinion, I will try to show as best as I can on why Embalmer is A+ tier in my opinion. Now, moving on to the A- category, okay? Got 5 characters for that. We're going to be starting off with Wildling, which I know a lot of people hate how Wildling is, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's the main reason why people hate Wildling is because of that 30% decoding debuff. Because that does kill a lot of games, especially when you have 2 rescuers like Mercenary and Forward that are S tier. And if one of them are banned, one will play the other. And with Wildling, just like a Forward Wildling combo is just really, really bad because of that decoding debuff. However, I do look at him as A-. Why did I say that is because his character development from his buff, or aka readjustment, whatever you like to call it, has made him more viable, okay? The character itself and his potential is very, very good. One thing I will say with playing with a top Wildling cast 007 is that even with detention, he can clutch a lot of games with the dungeon from an early down. Second thing is, a lot of hunters, especially on big maps, find a Wildling first and cannot commit to a Wildling. They automatically have to leave due to the fact of his bore. If used correctly to his potential, he could be very, very deadly by wasting the hunter's time, which is one of the main goals of this game of even winning. or getting a draw situation. And then the other thing is he can harass. Now I can say that his harassing is not like Ford. It's not as reliable, and we all can understand and agree that. But in a sense, if used correctly, his harassing can be deadly at the end game if needed. And the push can help support. You get 1 to 2 good pushes. It can support anybody's kite. If you haven't seen, I have a lot of videos of me playing Wildling with him. And not a lot, but I got a couple videos that shows him supporting me as Priestess, and it came really in clutch. Like, I'm telling you guys, like, it's made a huge difference in most of my matches. Now, like I said, this is like a make or break character. You either hate it or love it. But I'm telling you, if he is used to his full potential, I do see like a lot in Wildling. And I get it. The 30% decoding debuff is like, it hurts everybody. And I don't think they'll change it due to his character itself being unchaseable because of how good he is. It makes sense, you know, it makes sense. Now moving on to a wild card. We're going to be talking about Batter. Now I think about one of the main reasons why I have him as A- instead of being lower. Because Batter's a relatively new character. Now do not get me wrong, he obviously gets countered by the casual BQ, stuff like that. But I think with his potential and if used correctly, I do see him being a really effective character. Now the 20% decoding debuff is a downside of him, and I did notice that. However, with his cricket balls and his cricket bat itself, it can make up for a 60+ second kite. Pretty decent. Got a Seer Owl in there, maybe some Priestess portals. We can increase that kite. Not only does he harass, but he can also rescue pretty good. Only downside is the Cypher Rush. I feel like that in itself is better than most of the characters, honestly. Because a lot of characters can't harass. With that being said, like I said, take it or love it, or take it or leave it. You know, it is what it is. Now moving on to the third character in the A- tier. We're going to be talking about Coordinator. Now Coordinator has had its ups and downs throughout the entire season, etc. And what I will say about Coordinator is, one of the good things about her is that she's like Ben S tier, you know, Ben down there into the B tier to some people. But as of right now, she is a really consistent. What I mean by consistent is like reliable when it comes to rescuing. Against this current meta, she's pretty reliable if I'm going to be honest. Obviously the only downside is her trait of when someone is chaired. The coding debuff is insane. But other than that, that one good rescue is really all you need to change games. And she could bring a left-right build depending on how you play her, so she can kite endgame for that draw situation, etc. I do still see her as an A- if used correctly, and keep this in mind. This is an opinion of a high tier, so if I see these characters in high tier, then I'm willing to work with it, okay? I'm willing to be like, okay, we can do something with that. Self-explanatory. Now jumping on to the fourth character out of 5 in the A- category is Perfumer. Now just like Coordinator, you know, Perfumer has made its ups and downs, and why I don't look at her as S or A+ tier is because in the current meta you do not want to feed presence, like I said about Gravekeeper, and that's exactly her literal main purpose, like, is to have extra lives, as people would say, with the whole perfume concept and idea. And I just feel like with Bonbon and Sculptor, that does get countered pretty hard, but she still is a reliable character because she can kite, promote Cypher Rush, and rescue if needed. A lot of characters can't do that. And yeah, that's just like a really good idea and like concept that I see about her still being an A-. And yeah. Now moving on to the last character, which was really tough for me to even put up here this high. But I had to look at the character itself, you guys. I had to put my feelings aside and be like, you know what? I'm not gonna think about, I'm not even gonna shout nobody out. I'm not even gonna do anybody dirty. But I had to think about, you know, I had to think about some of these people's mains, and I was just like, man, I really hate seeing these people in ranked. But I'm talking about Enchantress, if you don't already know. Now I know it sounds crazy. It's like, Enchantress, are you kidding me? But honestly, if you do look at the character itself, she can harass endgame if needed. She can kite pretty decently against the meta because she does counter Bonbon and Sculptor if used right to her potential. And I just feel like that's really effective. Like, I was thinking, I was like, what could be better? But honestly, Enchantress is a really good character itself, and her potential is really, really good. And obviously, I already thought maybe I could just show people that watch this by playing her next season. But honestly, I'm gonna just let the Enchantress mains be. You know, I don't even own her. But I still look at her as a decent character, despite all the bad people in NAEU that use her. Like, I can't even name one person. And honestly, she brings hate to my heart when I think about her. But at the same time, you know, I'm not gonna hold anything against her. She can still be used in a really, really good way. It's just really hard to see it, I guess. Now moving on to the B tier category. Now with this B tier category, the first one we'll be talking about is Barmaid. Now why I had to put Barmaid at B tier is only because with the current meta and how easily she gets countered, we have Blink, we have Chip Damage Hunters, and just those two alone automatically put her as B tier. However, she can support. She can do a decent kite if used correctly. Some other things is she can rescue if needed at that end game or closer to that end game. And I just see her like, you know, it's that whole you don't have to heal, but you can heal type of thing, you know, with the drinking or whatever. And I feel like she would make a really good combo with Mercenary. You know, if she had Priestess Portals were extending her kite. What I will say is Cats played it in a tournament and my Priestess Portal saved him and he was able to heal up. She does counter Dream Witch and Bloody Queen if the blink is not there. And I just feel like that's really, really effective because it's hard to find Bloody Queen mains who actually, you know, get countered. You feel me? Now, that being said, Demi, hopefully everybody shouts her out. Like, B tier isn't bad, you guys. Like, it's still viable. And other than that, we're going to be moving on to another character. And we're going to be talking about Prisoner. Now, I know a lot of Luca mains are going to be like, why is he so low? Why'd you put blah, 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 blah. I'm going to just be honest. Suck it up. Like, it is what it is. Don't get me wrong. These B tier characters are still viable in rank, okay? I still look at them as good. I still think Prisoner can harass with that one stun endgame if truly needed. I just feel like the probability of that is just a little bit hard, you know. It's happened to me before, don't get me wrong, but it's happened once out of this entire, like, out of the entire games I've played this season, and I got 90 plus stars, okay? So like, I'm just being honest, and you don't really see a lot of Prisoner mains as well, so I do have to take that into account. But I just feel like the other people I've already named can Cypher Rush better, and the only one I truly see him countering is Percy. But Percy really isn't even that high on my tier list when it comes to Hunters. So honestly, don't get me wrong. I just feel like it's not that he's like bad, you guys. I just think there's better, if that makes sense, okay? I'm not trying to throw no shade towards Luca mains, but honestly, I didn't come here for arguments. You came here for my opinion, and you're gonna get it, okay? Moving on to another character in this tier, we will be talking about First Officer. Now, being a former first officer, yes, FFO. Whatever you guys want to say, first officer, you know, make jokes in the comments, whatever. I can tell you right now in this current meta, I just don't see him being as effective. He's a decent rescuer. That's why I definitely put him as B tier. Like, I truly see him, yes. Like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Have him in it. He can still be viable. Like I said, all of these B tier characters that I put out of the 5 can still be viable if used correctly to their full potential. Now, First Officer definitely falls down with that category. Don't get me wrong. Sculptor, go against the Sculptor, he can clap it. Or he can't, you know, it's really iffy. But I think the character potential itself is there. I just feel like there's better rescuers. That's all, you guys. That's all. Because I think his stopwatches are amazing. What, 20 seconds a piece? That's 40 seconds. He can waste the Hunter's time. What else? He can rescue almost like decently good against everybody. Except for Bonbon, obviously. I just don't see that support there with him. Compared to people like Mercenary switching out, like a strategy switching out the elbow pads for whatever the person has in the chair. Forward, harassing. Just stuff like that, you guys. I just don't see that harassing side of this rescuer. That's why he's a little bit lower, but still viable. Now, moving on to the 4th character, we will be talking about Magician. Now, Magician is a really, really good character, you guys. I know a lot of people are going to be sad that I put him as B tier and didn't put him higher. Maybe looking back at this at the end, I could see like a couple things being changed here or there, but overall, you know, this is what I stuck with. You know, it is what it is. But Magician is really good. Like I said, B tiers are still viable. They are still very, very good in rank. I just don't think he has that support, and I guess the rescue chair time really just, you know, it messes with me, especially against people like Bonbon, Sculptor, etc. You really just don't want to go against that and try to rescue, because it's hard to get that before half if you don't leave early. And I just feel like a lot of the time, a lot of kites depend on that chair time. Also speaking, I do love the adjustment he got. So I definitely look at, if you look at him as an A minus, you know, don't get me wrong, you could put him there. But I just chose to put him as B, because without those two wands, I feel like he really has nothing to work with. And I just feel like that's really, really unfortunate. And moving on to the last character, we will be talking about Doctor. Now, I know a lot of people don't actually give Doctor enough credit in my opinion, but I think she's an amazing character. By saying that, I will prove it next season by maining her. However, let's just continue. Also barmaid, just so you guys know. But talking about Doctor, I feel like she does feed presence, which is kind of bad in this meta. Blink can counter her as well. And other than those two main topics, I really just feel like Doctor's pretty viable in rank. Like, I'd like to see a Doctor who could play really good, and that's going to be me. Like, I will show that, you guys. I think that's really all about it that I got to say about the B tier. Moving on to the C tier, the last two, we got C and F. We got C. Starting off, we got Acrobat. Now, Acrobat is pretty reliable when it comes to looping, but his looping all depends on the map for one, and for two, where he spawns. And I just feel like in rank, you can't really rely on those two things. And he does get countered by almost every single one of the current metas. And I just feel like that's really bad, and I do feel bad for Acrobat. It's not like you can change it, I guess, necessarily, unless you adjust him. But for now, unless the meta changes, he's definitely going to be C tier on my list. Moving on to Dancer. If you guys do not know, I just completely hate Dancer. I don't even like talking about Dancer. I think I'm going to make an entire video on just Dancer, and you guys will just have to see from there. I just feel like she should be adjusted. Like, honestly, against this meta, she's an amazing tight kiter, but against current meta, we don't need tight kiting. We just don't. We need transitional kiting like Cowboy, okay? Now, don't get me wrong, you guys. It is all love. It is all love to all the Dancer mains, you know. It is what it is. No, not really. I actually hate every Dancer. I'm sorry. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to fake it. I don't mess with no Dancers. If you play her in ranked, you're screwing all your teammates over. She has no support. End of discussion. We're moving on. Going to Painter. Painter is definitely C tier after the first nerf he got, which just completely just made him kind of like completely trash, to be honest. Like, don't get me wrong. The two stunts he has is amazing from the paintings. But other than that, he's really rendered useless early game if the hunter is using meta. Like Bonbon, Sculptor, even Dream Witch in a sense, if it's a Blink Dream Witch. He's kind of screwed. He really has nothing to work with. Like I said, don't get me wrong. A lot of people can play good with these characters. I just don't see him being like, from the character and his potential itself being up there. Just like moving on to Gardner. Gardner is a BQ counter. But other than that, with these chip damage hunters, like, she's kind of rendered useless. Obviously, there's still like good people out there. I just don't see her being like one of them. Like, to be honest, you guys. I think the whole adjustment has made her better. But with the whole chip damage concept, she's just not there for me. Now, moving on to the last character in C tier, I actually put Lawyer here. Now, why I put Lawyer here is because my mans can promote Cypher Rush. He can decode as fast as a mind's eye after he pops one Cypher, and he can rotate. And can communicate in the voice chat or party or whatever you're in, even if you solo. He can still like show like, Hunter's over there, get away, you know? And I can respect that from somebody. That's really it I gotta say about Freddie Riley. Like, I'm gonna just keep it a buck. Moving on to the F tier. I don't think I'll say a lot about them. We got Mind's Eye, Entomologist, Thief, Lucky Guy, and Postman. Now, why I won't say a lot about them is because they just don't have enough support for me, in my opinion. And they just really won't help the team comp itself defeat the current meta. And other than that, here's a Survivor tier list that you guys have been waiting for. And yeah, remember, I'm Numer, and I'm out.